Hi, my name is Eric. I work for Rise Hawaii. I do a majority of our housing placement and navigation. We're going to go over how to search for landlords. So number one is cold calling. So we like to use community housing resources like Zillow, apartments.com, High Central, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. These are all updated daily and they're really valuable in finding housing initially. We also like to go to housing fairs, kind of market ourselves, hand out business cards, um, get face to face with potential landlords. And then a big thing that's helped us out is using the Public Housing Authority resources. So they have a comprehensive list of landlords that already work with subsidy programs. And so we kind of cold call them and kind of start to cultivate that relationship with them. Another big thing is to sell your program. So kind of educate landlords on your mission, what we're trying to accomplish, right? Get the landlords involved. We're trying to end youth homelessness, make them collaborative partners. And a big way to do that is just kind of showing up. Like we're like the point of contact for any potential issues. We're there to alleviate any stress and kind of be an advocate, not only for our clients, but for the landlords as well. It's just really important that your landlord feels supported and that they're not alone in this endeavor. Another big thing is the emphasis on supportive services. So we're more than just a funding source. There's often this negative stigma with subsidy programs, and a lot of landlords view them in a negative light. So kind of just pitch that wrap around that supportive service component, right? The crisis intervention, the independent living skills, the tenant education, household management, kind of teaching the client how to be a good neighbor before putting them into housing. And then thirdly, kind of address potential barriers before placement. So it's really important to cultivate that relationship with the youth before housing. Use a trauma-informed approach when finding appropriate housing. So, addressing potential triggers. We're not going to house someone, that's struggling with addiction in Chinatown, kind of just be really mindful of that. And then again, just teach the youth how to be a good neighbor before we put them into housing. Guess we can go to the next slide.
Well, sorry, I just want to interrupt real quick, Eric. Can we go back a slide and see Annie or Edgar? Did you guys have anything to add to this topic?
Yeah, as far as like cold calling, making sure that when you do reach out to these property management, that when you talk about, what subsidy program or you're getting assistance from, make sure you ask that question if they're willing to accept the program. And this is for people who are maybe not with providers or any of that. Just kind of when you're doing the cold calling, making sure you're asking questions about the unit and setting up your your unit viewing as well.
Thanks, Annie. Anything else to add for this slide from Edgar or Eric before we move on? Okay, go ahead, Elliot.
Hey guys, so I'm Annie from Partners in Care's the Landlord Engagement Program. So I'm just going to talk a little bit just in general on how to do your unit search. So we usually look at the fair market rent. You can research that online. Just type in fair market rent and how much rent is within your budget as well too. You want to look at your what can you afford without utilities. Then you're gonna look for rental search engines, which is like Craigslist, Zillow, Hotpad, which kind of Eric kind of mentioned, Facebook Marketplace. That's usually good ones for if you want to do like share living, have roommates if you're in that budget where it's you only can afford a certain amount and it's, you know, half the price of what rentals are. You know, instead of paying 1,200, you're paying 600 for rent, which maybe everything is included for utilities. Um, and then like hidden costs could be like if you're searching for a certain area and you see, and maybe you don't have a car, you know, you have to take the bus. And then you're gonna look for units where it's cheaper, where everything is included, and then you see some that don't include any utilities, so that's an extra thing on your budget. So it's gonna be a little bit more than your housing budget. So that's some of the things that you can look at while you're doing your unit search. And then for like most of us will pick like the top three. So you're gonna go by like what's first like most important to you, like a need. Like say, you know, you have a pet, so you're gonna need a unit that's gonna be pet friendly. And if you're looking for, because you have a disability, you're gonna need a place for an elevator. So a lot of those things are like what your needs are, and then after that you have your like top three, like your most wants. Like for example, like having a pool or being close to schools, stores, a safe neighborhood. You want to be on a high rise. You don't want to do walk-ups. You want to be on a ground floor unit, or maybe have like amenities as far as like having a pool and those kind of things. Yeah, so because when you pick those top threes, you're gonna have an easier time to not be so picky on what you see when you're doing your unit search, because there's some things that you can live without and you can accommodate once you're you know, in your unit or a place that you really want to live in. Just going forward with you know, viewings and applications, like your do's and don'ts. So like for going on viewings, always ask questions, and only answer the questions when they ask you. Try to, you know, be appropriate and dress like you're going on an interview. Then confirm your, you know, showing time. Try to be on time, and if you're not on time, always communicate with the property manager, because that's kind of like you're showing them that you're being responsible and you're being communicative. So they're gonna look at, hey, this person's being communicative. So like when they rent, they're gonna let me know if something's wrong with the unit or any assistance if they need to talk with me. So it's really important to, you know, build that relationship. So, and then kind of like the don'ts, right? Kind of like the opposite. So don't try to disclose your whole life to them. Don't come half dressed, you know, with no shirt, and be unprofessional. And if you're gonna smoke, like don't smoke in front of a parking lot while you're waiting. Also, you know, um, like not communicating or don't show up to the unit, because you know when you do unit search, there might be multiple units that they own. So if you go to another showing and they notice that you're not being responsive, they're not going to take your application seriously. So so moving on to applications, when you're doing applications, just making sure that you don't leave anything blank. If you don't know things that aren't on there, just put NA. So just try not to leave anything blank. Making sure that you turn in all the documents that they require you to send to them, because a lot of the property managers don't really look at your application unless it's complete, or you know, if you're missing documents, they'll just delay your time, and then they'll just pick another applicant that their application is fully complete and they turn in all their documentation. So always remember that you're not the only one that's applying to the unit. And also, if you have criminal backgrounds, if you're going through counseling or you have a PO officer, any services that you're going through, ask them to write you a letter on, how great you're doing as far as, going to your classes, you're trying to transition and back into society. So those are one of the great things when you turn in those things when you're doing applications. And also, for resources in the community, there are programs that could help you with applications if you need assistance or you have a language barrier, maybe you don't understand how to fill out the application. So there are community centers that can help and assist you in those kind of things. So, yep.
Thanks, Annie. I just want to see if, I know you're talking on unit viewings and applications and such, but want to see if Eric or Edgar, if you guys had any other tips or suggestions in the searching for units topic before moving on to the next.
I think Annie covered it pretty well.
Okay. Elliot, do you want to go to the next slide? Annie, you were covering this next one, unit viewings and applications, right? Was there any more than Eric and Edgar you wanted to add to the unit viewings and applications?
I saw Edgar's hand up earlier. I don't know if he was trying to speak.
Sorry, go ahead, Edgar. Oh, Edgar, you're muted right now. Elliot, are you able to unmute Edgar?
No, because like his mic is enabled, but Edgar, up by the red leave button is the mic button. Can you click that or no? How about now? There we go.
So yeah, I mean, basically to add on what Annie had mentioned, as a property manager, what I like to see is, should there be any potential issues or whatnot, just disclose, be upfront. Should you have an ESA, let it be known upfront. Those kinds of things are helpful to us because when you do introduce them later into the application process, it does muddle things. And even though the law says you don't have to disclose those things up front, I appreciate it as a property manager, something that's being honest and forthright with any other issues you might potentially have.
Thanks, Edgar. Okay, do we want to go to the next topic and Edgar could start us off? Next slide, Elliot.
Is it not this one?
I think it's the next one. What do landlords look for in applications? Yeah, this one.
Perfect. So, number one, when a tenant applies for a unit, and I think Annie briefly touched on it, is that we do like to see completed applications, meaning all boxes filled with as much complete information as possible, and the supporting documentation that's usually involved with it, whether it be pay stubs, bank statements, proof that you are employed or have funding sources of financial funding for the unit. Be prepared to have the application fee on hand already. And also, I guess with the people who are applying with programs, let it be known, hey, these programs have these certain types of services that is in addition to just subsidizing rent. Like they do follow-ups periodically, they engage or they do wellness checks for the property or for the tenant as well. Those I think are really, really important selling points that have helped me convince homeowners why we should go with a particular applicant that's coming through a subsidy program. I've closed on many properties that way. Also, again, Annie's already touched on this, making a great first impression when you meet the property manager. Exactly what she's saying. Dress like as if you're going to an interview, and you want to put your best foot forward.
Thanks, Edgar. Annie and Eric, do you have things to add to this?
Yeah, I just want to. Sorry, go ahead, Annie.
I just wanted to add that there are programs out there that offer, incentives to landlords. And Edgar, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how that has helped you in the process with like different programs that offered any like landlord incentives to you.
Absolutely, I'll definitely go in on that. I guess this past year or so, there've been programs out there that have offered incentive programs to homeowners should they decide to work with a particular applicant that's in their program. And again, it's another major selling point to the homeowner that, hey, this is what they're offering in addition to the rent. And for me, I was able to have 3 or 4 homes that that were not open to it in the beginning, but when you explain out the program, that this is the incentive program, and on top of that, there are programs should the tenant vacate after the fact, and there are damages, they're willing to help with that as well. It becomes a quite easier sell to do this, or to have them accepted as an applicant. So, if your program has that, it's a great way to give the power to the property manager to present it to the homeowner and see if that's something that they want to work with.
And then Eric, were you going to say something as well? Sorry, we go back to that slide.
Yeah, I just wanted to re-emphasize the supportive services. RISE has been really successful with housing youth all over the island by just really providing that wraparound support and making sure that the landlord feels secure in their choice. And that's a lot of it is community collaboration with other service providers. And so that's really important for the retention of when we put our clients into housing.
Thanks, you guys. Okay, and then this next slide. Go ahead, Edgar.
Yeah, so I mean, oftentimes I have a lot of, when people apply, especially in this marketplace that we have now where multiple applicants are very common for a property, oftentimes you'll be denied. And I think the number one key is be persistent, be diligent, always keep looking around for new properties as an applicant. You just and just be understanding that, hey, it might not happen this time, but you need to just be at it, and you can't be looking once a week, once every 2 days. You need to be looking at every day, if not more than once a day. It's just persistence is a key. Being able to get a hold of people who are doing showings, or companies, property managers, whatever, who may be a homeowner, and following up. The essence of once you've made the initial contact, follow up, confirm the appointments. All these things will help you get, or will make a better case for you, saying, hey, this is someone who's responsible, or they're really interested in the property. So I think persistence is the key.
Thanks, Edgar. And then Annie, Eric.
Yeah, so just bouncing off of Edgar, yeah, just be consistent. I mean, even though you get designed for certain units, and you know, sometimes you can ask like why you're getting denied, or you know, it can have some type of support as far as like if you're say you don't have a good credit score or you know any of that or you don't make 3 times the income or those type of things, kind of just reevaluate and then look for programs or resources out in the community that can help you maybe boost up your you know credit score or you know like work on your budget and how you can you know increase your income. Maybe it could be adding family members or, you know, or choosing you know, new roommate, you know, that type of thing. So yeah, those are the type of things that you can look out. So there's a lot of like community resources that, you know, you know, you can utilize in the community.
Thanks, Annie. Did you have anything to add, Eric?
Yeah, just one thing. Yeah, I think going off of what Annie was just saying, I think it's important to find out why they were denied, just from a service provider perspective. So if it's like credit history or criminal history or evictions, that way we can come back and kind of assist them with other community resources to help them.
Okay, thanks, Eric. All right, so I think those are the main points that our presenters wanted to discuss. Now I wanted to open up the session just to questions and answers. Maybe we could discuss some stories with one another and kind of hear from the presenters and from the audience. I had one question I can start to get us started, but then if anyone in the chat wanted to ask a question, if you could just add it in the chat or feel free to raise your hand. Eric, I wanted to ask you about, I think it was in the first slide, you're talking about searching for landlords selling your program. Do you have key points that you recommend programs go over when they do that? Like certain things you need to make sure you talk about your program? What are landlords really looking to hear about from your program when you're doing those cold calls and whatnot?
So when we do the cold calls, we kind of just inquire if they do take a subsidy program and kind of just give a baseline of what our mission is and what we're trying to accomplish and the clientele that we're trying to house. So if they have severe mental illness, if they have employment history, you know, all these potential barriers, kind of be very forthcoming. Like Edgar said, we don't want to surprise landlords with you know, possible problems without, you know, disclosing in the beginning. So just being very forthcoming about who we're trying to house and some of their barriers.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Any other questions from people on the call?
Can I just add to that?
Yeah, definitely, Annie, go ahead.
Okay. So like if like for me when we do like for our programs, like I like to, in my experience, sometimes I've experienced landlords don't want to hear the program over the phone and they're just like, okay, yeah, send me an email. So sometimes I wouldn't even ask that question and I'll just like set up a unit viewing. And then when I get to the unit viewing and then I talk about and explain to them my program like face to face, so I know that they're paying attention to what I'm telling them. So that's another good strategy that you guys can utilize as well too, and it works.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Annie. Now you guys must do that a lot as well as the landlord engagement program to sell the program to work with all the providers, you know. Go ahead, Emma. can you unmute?
Oh, yes, I can unmute. I was just wondering, for, any of the three presenters, if you could share any strategies that may work when you have people that have pets that are not service animals, because I know it can be hard to find landlords that are willing to rent to someone who has one pet, let alone maybe multiple pets. So wondering if you have, any creative solutions that have worked, for people. And then the other question I had is just related to application screening fees, because I know that they're pretty common and it can really add up for people that are applying to multiple places. So if you have any, tips or strategies or ways that maybe you've even been able to get landlords to agree not to maybe charge someone unless they really are going to process their application. So yeah, thanks for taking my questions.
For me, for animals, well, we usually look for something that's more pet friendly. But some landlords, it could be like they want to know, maybe we can show, like we have done, like maybe showing the bill of health for the animal, the pet, like making sure, the dog goes to the doctor and everything. And also getting renter's insurance and getting liability, because what they're afraid of is something happening on their property, right? With like another animal or, a person, right? So those are the kind of the common things that, we can utilize when we advocate for our clients.
To add on, I think what Annie is saying, and I'm in complete agreement, is basically be prepared. If you have an animal, just say, hey, we've already got a renter's insurance. The dog is added on, the pet is added on the policy. Should there be any potential issues that show up? Also, maybe providing photos. I've had applicants come in and bring in their photos of their dogs that they've had. Say, hey, he's not what you think he is, and those kinds of things I think add a little more human touch to it, and it may or may not make a difference, but it doesn't hurt, in my opinion. Going down to the application fees, from the industry standpoint, it's very, very. I see a lot of other companies doing it just to collect application fees, unfortunately. And every company is a little different. For me, I actually don't collect the fee until I'm ready to screen them, or if I've screened them out already, and then I'll run the credit report last. Maybe that's something you might want to approach to the other homeowners or property managers.
Yep, and can I just add on to Edgar, like we have, some landlords will require the application fee because, they do the background check or the credit check. So we just have the client or, the one of the providers to, do a credit report for them and then have that presented already. So maybe that could waive the application fee. And then sometimes we'll just negotiate with the landlord. They say, oh, can we just turn in the application, and if you approve them, can we just pay at the the lease signing? So that's one of the strategies that we use.
Awesome. Thank you both. Any other questions? Annie, when you were talking about resources in the community for applications, and I see Sarah has her hand up, so Sarah, I'll jump to you right after this. But you were talking about some resources that could maybe help with unit applications, is that right?
Yes. So as far as like filling out applications, because there is community centers that they can go through in their community, depending what area they live in.
Okay, do you know like what some of those resource centers are called by chance? Or like what to search for?
That I can put that in the chat later.
Okay. Okay, yeah, thanks, Annie. Sarah, go ahead, and then we'll get to the questions in the chat. So sorry, I'm just seeing those. Sarah, are you able to unmute?
She should be able to.
Maybe she had to jump off. Okay, well, I'm gonna just go down the line for the questions in the chat. So Jackie's question, how does one typically navigate finding housing if they don't have access to phones or computers to search and apply? What type of community support services do landlords typically like tenants to have?
I know a big thing for Rise is that we have a learning center here with several case managers that we can help them call landlords and apply for viewings, and there's computers here, and so we have a lot of resources here, and then we also have drop-in services. So if your client's 18 to 24, they can come over to Rise and they can we can help them fill out applications. We can make phone calls with them. We can kind of be that point of contact.
Awesome, thanks, Eric. And then just to finish that question here, Edgar, did you have anything you wanted to add to what type of community support services landlords would typically like tenants to have?
Sure, absolutely. You know, I think whenever you can get any type of program, you know, for example, I'll use, you know, support services like I know Catholic Charities and whatnot. If they're going to come in and say, hey, we're willing to take care of the security deposit for the applicant, try to get them in early. Try to provide their contact number so that's something we can verify with the you know, with the program or whatnot, or any other program that's willing to help you out. Provide the contact information for the person that's handling your case or that's helping you to obtain these additional funds, or you know, whatever program it may be. If they're going to be doing wellness checks for you, make sure just let it be known and provide all those contact information, because all these things will help your case as an applicant.
Thanks, Edgar. Okay, I think Sarah's back on. Sarah, can you unmute?
Hi, so sorry. I pressed the exit button earlier instead of the mic. Not a question, but really just kind of a gratitude to you, Edgar. You and I first met maybe 8 months ago on Facebook Marketplace when I messaged you about a unit at like 9:30 at night, and we ended up spending probably 45 minutes to an hour engaged in conversation about the program, which resulted in a lease signing for a family that was in really dire need of housing within just a couple days' time. So I wanted to say thank you so much for your willingness to work with the program, your willingness to come and speak in forums like this from a landlord perspective, and just to say, you know, how important it is that we have these relationships built between folks who are looking for housing, folks who are supporting those looking for housing, the folks themselves who are looking for housing, and the landlords who make all of it possible. So just thank you very much.
I really appreciate those kind words, Sarah. And you know, again, it was such a very chance encounter through, I guess it was Facebook Marketplace. But yeah, I mean, you know, it was a cold call basically, and we were able to cultivate that relationship and get a number of your clients or people into homes, and that's ultimately one of the goals, right? So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that, Sarah. And we thank you so much, Edgar, for helping us bridge this this partnership for everybody, so we could all learn a little bit more. I'm just going to go down the chat for a couple more of these inquiries, and I know we have a couple of hands up as well. So asking this question, can you talk about working on how to talk to landlords about discrimination? Sometimes, I guess, discrimination due to children or just other circumstances, maybe how housing programs can talk with landlords about this. I don't know if Annie, Eric, or Edgar, if you guys have any insider suggestions for how you discuss discrimination with landlords.
For me, I think just providing that education, right? So making them aware of, things that, they can and cannot do. So a lot of times I like to, when we deal with any of the discrimination issues, I like to, give them the landlord tenant rules or just different resources that I can share with the landlord and make them kind of understand, especially if they're new to, renting, units to, our population. So sometimes it could be kind of challenging. So we like to educate them with as much as like resources out there as much as possible so that they can understand what is the standards and how they can not treat, just anybody in general that's applying for their unit. So just kind of making them understand and educating them, I think that's the best resource that we can provide for the landlords.
Thanks, Annie. Okay, was there, Eric, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of that. Just getting the youth involved in understanding their lease. We had an issue where a landlord was going into the apartment without the knowledge of the tenant. So just making sure that our youth are engaged with their lease and they understand their tenant rights and the landlord rights, and just getting them involved in the process.
Great, thanks, Eric. Okay, so Berta's question here is, what personal information about a client can you share and what should you not share? So relating to like mental health diagnoses or any kind of diagnoses, things like that. What would you guys advise?
We like to share as little as possible. It's important to work with the landlord and have them understand our program, but in terms of diagnosis, like we try to keep that to a bare minimum. We try not to disclose any of that information.
Same here. We don't disclose any of those kind of type of stuff. And we like to tell landlords, that kind of like another education for the landlords to ask the appropriate questions, right, for the client if they, because this comes off as, I think, on my point of view, if a landlord is kind of interviewing our clients and kind of asking these inappropriate questions, kind of, already see that they're kind of being discriminative, towards our clients. So, usually we like to just stop it right there and kind of educate the landlord, say, hey, asking medical and those, kind of personal questions is, like that's why they're going for the unit. So it's like, that they're
Okay, if you're not speaking, if you could go ahead and mute. Elliot, I can't mute. I'm getting feedback from somebody.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll mute him.
Thanks. Okay, thanks, Annie. And Eric, I'm just curious, Edgar, do you have suggestions on your end? You may have the same opinion or a different opinion. I'm not sure.
No, I mean, actually, I'm in complete agreement, from a property manager standpoint. It's not something I should be asking. Those are really personal information. Now, if the tenant was to willingly share those kinds of things, then I guess it opens up a little leeway, but it's not something I would be asking. But apparently from this line of questioning, it seems like people are, and so I think falls along the lines of, hey, this is somewhat inappropriate. You could be considered discriminatory according to fair housing or whatever statutes might be applicable for what they're asking. Children, familiars, family status, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Edgar. And then a question about how do you talk to landlords about what's a crisis, what's an emergency, and what's not? I guess by building those partnerships with landlords. Some landlords may call housing programs quite often, but for small things. So maybe how do you approach having that conversation with the landlord? Do you guys have any suggestions for that?
I think it's important at the lease signing, right? That you have this conversation with the client or, whoever that's applying for the unit and the landlord being there and kind of discussing kind of the things that are emergencies, like, as far as like plumbing, flooding, fire, that kind of stuff. Kind of having that set boundaries on what's emergency and what's non-emergency. So you kind of just lay that out in the beginning, so you won't have those issues when landlords are constantly calling for little things. Just having that boundary really helps in the beginning.
Thanks, Annie. Eric or Edgar, did you guys have anything to add? Okay, I think someone had their hand up. Takako, did you have a question that hasn't been answered yet that you wanted to ask, or were there any other? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Well, I had an rental assistance from the Catholic charity, and just because after unemployment insurance ended last year, I had a struggling paying the rent, and I was accepted, but also the lease ended, and the landlord didn't want to renew the lease. So in the middle of assistance, I had to move out. And then now I'm looking for a place with the assistance, but the landlord wants to make sure if I have enough income. But if I have enough income, I didn't need the Catholic Charities help. And now I'm stuck. I have fund to pay, but the landlord doesn't want to accept it. How am I supposed to verify that I'm able to pay the rent?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm kind of wondering if that goes back to the maybe Eric and Annie. I don't know if you guys want to speak to this, but how programs can kind of bridge that gap between clients not having income, but landlords also needing to see income, right, to know that you can sustain the unit. Do you guys have anything to add there?
Yeah, I kind of spoke to you earlier, Chotako. Since you're provided by, Catholic Charities, maybe have Catholic Charities kind of have like a supportive letter stating that they're supporting you for this amount of time. So that way they have some kind of proof that, and it's a good thing that you did call us, because we work with landlords. So that's kind of the route that we're gonna take. So if you don't have income, right, and a program supporting you, a letter from the program would help you support you in that. And then you're gonna find landlords that actually take like housing assistance. That'd
Right. I have 2 cases that the landlord wanted to talk to the case manager directly from the Catholic Charity, and I emailed to Catholic Charity and asked them to call the landlord directly, but the Catholic Charity was asking me in order of I mean, I am accepted already, so all they need is this. But the landlord want to make sure if the fund is available. I guess without Catholic Charity reach out to the landlord, I wouldn't get the lease. But without the lease, Catholic Charity couldn't help. I got stuck
Hi,
there.
Takako, we're getting some feedback from your mic. So sorry, maybe we can follow up with you and with Catholic Charities offline, because it sounds like a very specific situation that we could try to resolve outside of this meeting. So I wanted to ask if anyone else had any more general questions for our presenters before we close. Just anything about unit searching for landlords, unit viewings, applications, things like that.
Morgan, I just wanted to address just the last one. Also providing like a promissory note we've provided promissory notes from our accounting department, and also providing like a benefits letter if you're receiving EBT or SNAP. That also helps. So that in conjunction with the letter really kind of goes a long way with landlords.
Thanks, Eric.
Excellent points, Ryan. I mean, Eric, sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, it's, if they can provide those types of letters, or even, I would assume some of your clients would have Social Security, those kinds of things. If they can present those letters, they will all help, in my opinion.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Edgar. Well, if those are all of the questions, Elliot, could you just go to the next slide? I was going to say a few things to wrap up, and then and we'll close. So just want to let everyone know, once again, thank you so much to Annie and Eric and Edgar for your willingness to share about all the work that you guys do already and the expertise that you have with our continuum. We are going to be writing up a one-pager of just a list of these different tips, suggestions that you all do and have recommended, so that we can share that. Our next session will be next Wednesday at noon, and we'll be hearing from employment programs, so from American Job Center and HCAP. So that'll be the 4th session, and then that's followed by a 5th session the Wednesday following. So if you go to the next slide, Elliot, everything is on the Partners in Care website. If you go to the PIC website, we have the past 2 sessions recorded and up, and then this session will be up there as well. And then we're just adding the slides and one-pagers as they come available. But thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you hopefully next week. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.